Whoa, hey guys, welcome to more Sundance Quickies from Worst to Betsy. Here we go, copy that. One of the films I saw was Hive from Kosovo director Blerta Bisholi. This is her feature-length directorial debut, and it's honestly pretty impressive. This is a story about a woman whose husband goes missing in a war, and her ambitions to make ends meet independently wind up being harmed by her community. There are characters in this film that believe that a woman doing things without a husband automatically makes her a whore. It's a very engaging and watchable story, but what really makes me love this film is its presentation. The lead performance in this film is very well acted and believable. There are some great long takes in this film as well. The editing is respectful and patient. There's lots of life and personality in the camera work. There's also good music and really great sound design choices. Some of these sound design choices are more obvious than others, like hearing a heartbeat when two characters hug, but there's also really great Foley and ambient background sounds for the most part. One of my issues with this film is that some parts were a bit predictable. As a complete film, it does feel a little too reminiscent of many other films I've seen, and although the lead performance was great, there was a younger actor that wasn't really amazing. Still, this is a very well-made film with tons of culture and character. It is very well directed and pretty incredible for a first feature. So yeah, check this one out whenever you can, and I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10. Another film I saw was The World to Come, directed by Mona Fastfold. The film is a love story starring Katherine Watson and Vanessa Kirby, both of whom deliver pretty great performances. The film also features Christopher Abbott and Casey Affleck, who also do a great job. The film looks really nice and is generally well shot. The musical score for this film is something that I particularly enjoyed. It's kind of experimental, especially for the type of film that this is. Throughout the film, we hear a really chaotic sounding clarinet that sounds like it's trying to imitate a saxophone. The music is weird and interesting, and it really helped my experience throughout the film. There's also some really great costumes and set design. There are some elements of this film that feel a bit too modern, but for the most part, they really did a great job at making everything believable. Throughout the film, we hear very soft-spoken voiceover narration that is often poetic. This film does an effective job at communicating passage of time, and it's also got a really great atmosphere. You can really feel the struggles of a harsh winter and how it would affect a farm. Now, there's a lot that I loved about this film, but I still don't feel as though I connected with it as much as I should have. From a narrative sense, this story isn't super interesting to me. There are parts of this story that feel particularly uninspired and cliched, and especially now that critically acclaimed period piece lesbian romance movies are kind of becoming its own genre in a way. Perhaps on a second watch I'll be a bit more engaged in the actual narrative, but I guess we'll see when that happens. It is still very much a film that has lots of talent behind it, and I really enjoyed the filmmaking in this movie and thought it had a great sense of style. So yeah, I could see my rating change for this film in the future, perhaps lower, perhaps higher, or maybe it will stay the same. Check this one out if you want, and for now, I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10. Another film I saw was One for the Road, directed by Boz Punpriya. This is the same director as 2017's Bad Genius that we talked about on Sardonicast, and although I enjoyed that film, it didn't quite stick with me as much as this one did. There is a huge jump in quality for the presentation of this film, especially in the visuals, and that might have something to do with acclaimed director Wong Kar-wai hopping on as producer for this film. Apparently he worked pretty closely with Boz, and it really shows. This film is essentially a buddy drama slash comedy. One of the characters has terminal cancer, and they travel through Thailand so he can make amends with previous relationships. It's a familiar setup, but the style and presentation really make this a memorable experience. There are really lively sequences in this film that have so much energy, and much of this is complemented by a really great choice of songs in the soundtrack. The whole movie looks visually fantastic. The lighting and framing and camera work are all pretty top-notch. There are some parts of this film that feel a bit goofy or cheesy, but overall this is a much more mature experience than Bad Genius. There's some really great performances in this movie, and the actors have some really convincing drunk scenes. This is also a really good movie for people who are passionate about mixology. There are lots of bartending sequences with amazing looking fancy drinks. The alcohol in this film is what food is in I Am Love. Watching this film made me want to try recreating some of these drinks. There are really enjoyable, non-literal, and metaphorical sequences in this film, but it's also a super accessible film that mainstream audiences should enjoy. The film has a great sense of humor and lots of character, and many of the dramatic parts are effective. Overall, this film is very thoughtful and creative and genuine. It also had a really great pacing that is all the way up until the last quarter of the film. It kind of falls apart and changes structure and winds up becoming just this weird montage of flashback sequences. It really felt so strong and consistent moment up until this last section of the film, where it suddenly decides to take half an hour to explain something that could have been explained in several minutes. This entire section feels bloated and overcomplicated, which is really bizarre because the entire movie worked so well being simple, and I'm not even really upset at where this film decided to go narratively. It's just that the way that they decided to tell this last part of the story felt so jarring and unnecessary. This film still feels great by the end of it, and perhaps this bizarre structure change won't bother me as much on a second watch now that I'm expecting it. Either way, despite a few logical issues and some grievances with the structure, I still really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to seeing this film a second time, and I'm eager to check out whatever this director creates next. So yeah, check this one out whenever you can, and I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10. Thank you.
Going down and down and down and down and down and down and deeper. I never go to sleep, but I try to be a dreamer.